Hello and good night. Welcome to another bedtime story. This story is meant to help you sleep or to relax your mind. Try and find a comfortable place, such as your bed or a soft chair. If you feel comfortable, you can close your eyes now. Try and let go of the day as we begin our tale. Tonight's story is The White Snake. Once upon a time, and for many years, a young servant had lived in quiet devotion to his king, his hands steady in service, his ears attuned to the whispers of the grand halls. He had been but a boy when he first came to the palace, but now he was a man, curious, ambitious, and aware that something unseen had begun calling him forwards. It was time to move on. The king he served was a man of great wisdom, one who seemed to know all that transpired within his kingdom. He could speak of distant disputes before messengers arrived, of harvests before the farmers themselves knew their yields. His people marveled at his insight, whispered of his hidden knowledge. None, however, dared ask how he came to know so much. On the final evening of his service, the young servant carried out his tasks reverently, knowing each would be the last, polishing the silver goblet until it gleamed, tending the embers in the great hearth, and at last bearing the golden tray that held the king's final meal of the day. On this tray, hidden beneath an ornate cover, was a single white snake, its body curled like a sleeping crescent moon. The servant had long wondered at this secret dish, which the king dined upon alone, never allowing another soul to witness. Curiosity, which had stirred in him for years, could no longer be ignored. As he stood in the empty corridor, his heart thudded with the weight of his decision. With careful hands, he lifted the lid. The white snake lay still, its scales iridescent under the candlelight. With a breath of resolve, he broke off a small piece and tasted it. The world changed in an instant. Voices, soft, rustling, layered over one another, poured into his mind. He turned, startled, only to see a pair of sparrows perched on the high windowsill, conversing in hushed, urgent tones. "The queen's ring is lost," one chirped. "A terrible misfortune," the other replied. "The king is sure to suspect treachery." A shiver ran through him. He understood them. He understood the birds. The next morning, as the castle stirred with panic over the missing ring, the young servant, now holding knowledge he did not yet fully comprehend, stepped forwards with quiet certainty. He requested to search the royal dining chamber. The king, trusting his loyal servant, allowed it. Guided by something deeper than sight, the servant listened to the scurrying beneath the floorboards, the rustle in the stone walls. The whispers of the mice led him to a crack near the hearth, where, within the shadows, something glimmered. Reaching inside, his fingers closed around the lost ring. When he returned it to the king, there was both awe and suspicion in the royal gaze. "You have done what no other could," the king said slowly. "But how?" The servant only bowed his head. "A keen ear and a careful heart, my king." And so, with gratitude and reward, he took his leave of the palace, stepping out into the wide, waiting world, where the voices of creatures great and small would guide him on the path ahead. His journey led him first into a dense, vast forest, where trees whispered in the wind, and the undergrowth rustled with unseen life. As he followed a winding path along a riverbank, he heard frantic splashing and cries of distress. Looking down, he saw a school of fish caught in the reeds, their silver bodies flashing as they struggled. "Please help us! The water is too low! We are trapped!" Without hesitation, he waded in, loosening the reeds and clearing a path for the fish to swim free. "Thank you," they gurgled as they darted away. "Should you ever need us, call upon the water and we will come." Further along, the servant came upon a great stretch of earth, trampled and torn. A colony of ants rushed back and forth, their voices rising in distress. "Our home is ruined. The riders have crushed our hill, and we cannot gather food because the rains come." Moved by their plight, the servant knelt and carefully rebuilt the mound, smoothing the soil and uncovering buried grain. The ants swarmed around him in gratitude. "You have saved us. If ever you need our aid, simply call and we will come." As the sun dipped towards the horizon, the servant came to the edge of the forest, where he found 3 young ravens perched on a fallen branch, their feathers ruffled and their cries weak. "Our parents have abandoned us. We are too small to fly, and we will surely starve." Gently, the servant took out the small loaf of bread he carried and crumbled it for the ravens. They pecked eagerly, strength returning to their frail bodies. "You have given us life. Should you ever need us, look to the sky and we will answer." With a heart full of wonder, the servant pressed onwards, carrying the voices of the fish, the ants, and ravens with him, till at last he came upon a grand city, the heart of a neighboring kingdom. As he wandered the bustling streets, he heard the excited murmurs of the townspeople. They spoke of the king's daughter, a princess of rare beauty, but one whose heart remained untouched. Many noblemen had sought her favor, yet none had won even a flicker of her interest. Intrigued, the servant decided to see her for himself. When he caught sight of her, his heart leapt. Never before had he beheld such grace, such fire in a single gaze. He fell in love at once. But the princess, when she noticed him, barely spared him a second glance. "Another one comes to waste my time," she remarked coolly, lifting an elegant brow. "Do you come with promises of devotion, or with empty boasts of your worth?" The servant, undaunted, met her eyes with quiet confidence. "Neither," he said. "Only the certainty that I was meant to stand before you." The princess smirked. "Bold words, but what makes you any different from the others?" "Perhaps time will tell," he replied. "If you would grant it the chance." She studied him for a moment, then turned away. "If you wish to prove yourself, then do as the others have done. My father has set a challenge, one no man has yet completed. If you fail, you will leave as they have." The first task was set. The king, surrounded by courtiers and townspeople alike, walked to the edge of the lake. He took a great ring from his finger and, with a mighty throw, threw the ring into the lake. He looked at the servant and lifted a bushy brow. "Retrieve my ring, or you shall be removed from my company, and you will never see the princess again." The servant stood at the water's edge, uncertain, until he knelt and whispered to the rippling surface, "If you can hear my words, now help me in my plight." A moment later, 3 fishes surfaced, one of them holding the golden ring glinting in its mouth. The townspeople shouted, the courtiers murmured, the princess and her father exchanged looks. Would she have to be wed to a servant? They were not yet willing to admit defeat. A second challenge was devised, this one by the princess herself. She ordered 3 sacks of grain to be brought to a lush meadow outside the city gates. She herself, together with her maidens, spread the grains on the fields. Then she ordered him to gather the field's worth of scattered grain by dawn. "If you are truly worthy," she said, "you will find a way." Then she turned around and swept back into the city. The servant worked until dark. He was starting to feel defeated. How was this task to be fulfilled? Then exhaustion overtook him, and he fell into a deep sleep. But when he awoke, he saw 3 sacks filled to the brim with golden grain. As he looked around, he saw an army of tiny ants leaving the field, the last one waving a tiny arm at him, and the words came into his mind, "You helped us in our hour of need. Now we have repaid you." But still, the princess was not yet ready to yield. How could a mere servant become her consort and equal? "If you are truly worthy, you will do one more impossible thing for me," she snapped. The servant looked her in the eye and smiled. Even angry, she had never looked lovelier to him. "Find me a golden apple from the silver tree at the end of the world," she commanded. The servant bowed and without a word set out on his journey. As he reached the edge of the forest, the ravens he had once aided returned to him. "We have flown across distant lands and found the fabled tree," they said. "We have now repaid you for your kindness." And in their talons, they were bringing him 1 golden apple. Expressing his gratitude, the servant returned to the king's palace and, once more, requested an audience with the king and his daughter. When he placed the apple before the princess, she lifted a delicate brow and was silent for a while, observing the servant. Here stood one who had done what nobler heads had failed to do. She asked, "Why should you, a mere servant, be worthy of my hand?" He met her gaze steadily. "Because I have listened, I have learned, and I have proven my worth, not through birth, but through action." The princess looked at him intently. Then, taking the apple, she cut it in half, offering 1/2 to the servant and keeping the other half for herself. At last, she smiled. "Then perhaps you are worthy after all." The end. Thank you for listening to this bedtime story. I hope you enjoyed the tale tonight. If you did, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more audiobooks and tales to come. Until next time.